up on this episode of Game. It's Take No Prisoners as Fraggy turns from mild-mannered gamer to battle-hardened war vet. We head online to find out just what's been shaking the interwebs these past 7 days. And we face the beautiful and the not so beautiful as we gear up for what could be this year's biggest console release. All that and more in the next half an hour. This is Game. A very warm welcome and thanks for joining me for another episode of Asia's favourite weekly gaming show. I'm your host, Kelly Latimer, your guide to the exciting world of interactive entertainment. We've got a monster episode this week with lots of exciting news as we inch closer and closer to the release of some of video gaming's biggest names. But first, it's time to visit Fraggy, who for the last week or so has been busy getting his hands dirty in the latest free-to-play shooter up for download. Set in a world where mercenary commando units fight for control of the streets, let's see what our resident game guru thought of War Inc. Battlezone.
Salutations, soldier, and welcome back to the Gaming Den with me, Sergeant Fraggy. Now, as you can probably guess, it's time for another soldierly game review as we shack up with the latest military sensation to be burning up the scene, War Inc. Battlezone. Now, it was once said, when the rich make war, it's the poor that suffer. Wise words indeed, but not quite true in this case. Because unlike most retail games on the market, War Inc. is totally free to play. Now, when I first heard about this title, I was actually a little skeptical, namely because A, I had played more than my share of crappy free games before, and B, most of the time these supposedly free games are no more than glorified cash shops, milking gamers for upgrades in a system I like to refer to as pay to win. But hey, I thought to myself, I don't want to tar all these games with the same brush, and this one does look pretty slick. So without spending any money at all, I decided to see just what kind of mileage I could squeeze out of War Inc. Battlezone. Now, if you've tried a few of these free games before, the one thing that stands out is that while a lot of these titles can be fun, most of the time these free-to-play games just don't stand up graphically when you compare them to other AAA releases. But as you can see with War Inc., graphical fidelity is the least of your worries, especially if you've got a beefy computer, because this game looks beautiful. Set in a dystopian future where economic collapse has corporate and military units vie for power, this download comes with 6 large maps set in a variety of lush environments. From jungle rivers to huge open desert stretches, even down to battles which take place in the dead of night. Pretty cool. Also, if you're the kind of gamer who really likes to tinker with his loadouts, another thing I liked was the interface, which really takes the headache out of customizing your guy. You see, unlike most shooters, choosing your skills, abilities, and equipment is actually a huge part of what makes War Inc. fun to play. And with a dizzying amount of things to mess around with, as well as a skill tree which marks your progress, leveling up is always a treat. And finally, I just gotta say that as someone who didn't spend a single cent on this game, the thing I probably liked the most was how generous this game is with its in-game currency. You see, doing well on the battlefield earns you points which you can then spend on equipment and abilities. And the nice part about this is that you can choose to rent these items for a day or have them permanently in your item list by purchasing them for a few more credits. But I found that because I was earning thousands of credits for each map, I had more than enough to try out several cool items and guns. Now, of course, you can actually use real money if you want to get the stuff faster, but I think the best thing about War Inc. is that I never actually felt the need to spend anything to feel like I was competing on an equal level. And for a free-to-play game, I think that is the most important aspect. Okay, so there are a few issues with this package that I do want to highlight. Well, nothing major though, because remember, this game's still in beta testing. First off, while I love the environments, the animation is, how shall we say, pretty terrible. Running around looks like you're sliding around on ice, and there's a general feeling of floatiness to the combat. Also, when it comes to sound, I think the team could do with the skills of a good audio engineer. You see, guns just seem to be missing a certain oomph. And the lack of any environmental sounds, as well as the fact that none of your characters say anything, can kind of make you feel a little detached from the action. You know what, the highest compliment I can probably give this game is that I think I'm going to be playing this one long after today's review. It's a solid and enjoyable shooter which combines some of the best aspects of games like Battlefield and Ghost Recon into one tight package, all for the cost of nothing. With a selection of over 130 weapons and perks, as well as a leveling system which never really feels cheap, even though you are. If you've got a decent PC and you're looking for a skill-based game with gameplay that'll keep you coming back for more, Warring Battlezone comes highly recommended.
Thank you, Fraggy. Well, exclusively for the PC and currently in open beta, sign-ups for War Inc. are open right now. So just point your browsers to www.thewarinc.com or download the game from the Steam platform. And with that, it's time for a little recharge as we head off for a break. But don't go anywhere, because when game returns, stick 'em up, World Wide Web. We raid the internet for this week's top online picks. And somebody's watching. It's back to Arkham with our favorite husky-voiced Crusader. Hey, welcome back to the show. You're watching Game with me, Kelly. Now, if you're a gamer, you'll know that our favorite hobby can sometimes be a bit of a pain, especially on the wallet, which is why our next segment has become somewhat of a lifesaver. Got a gaming itch that just won't go away? Well, coming up next, it's our weekly selection of the best free-to-play titles around. Say thank you, Kelly. This is Online.
Floating through this week's list of freebies, we lather up with a devilishly difficult game all about a little sud looking to make his way back to his friends in Soap Bubble 2. A title which will definitely tax your concentration. This one relies heavily on quick thinking and even quicker reflexes as you maneuver your way through a labyrinth of machines and conveyor belts to make it out intact. Using the arrow keys for movement and speed control, prepare yourself for a challenge of monumental proportions. So if you're looking for a game to while away those boring afternoons, why not pop by the link below. Next up, we turn our attention to a puzzle game with a rather unique gameplay mechanic. You see, in Impasse, the goal of the game is simple. Just get your circle to the checkpoint on the other side. Easy, right? Well, not quite. Because with each level, new rules are introduced, and the challenge here is discovering just how these rules work. Featuring 24 brain-bending levels, the nice thing about this one is just how it slowly eases you into the experience. Now, don't worry about making mistakes, because in Impasse, it's all part of the learning experience, as you figure out the correct path through an ever-changing maze. An enjoyable exercise in lateral thinking, and definitely not one to pass up, Impasse is available at the address below. And finally, wrapping up this edition of the best free games you can get, time to strap on our chainmail, cause we're going mano a mano, medieval style. A game all about the age-old art of jousting. The objective in the lance is the same as it's been since the Middle Ages. Get the other guy off his horse using your long pointy stick thingy. But making this endeavor all the more difficult is the fact that your opponent is trying to do the exact same thing. Pieced together with an engaging storyline and some pretty fun gameplay, this title also gives players the chance to level up and upgrade their equipment as they go along. Sounds interesting? Well, if you fancy yourself a bit of a whiz at horsey ballet, why not give this one a shot by following the link below.
A great selection of titles there, all yours with just a simple click of the mouse. Now don't forget, if you want to check out any of the games you've just seen for yourself, all the links to the stuff we feature can be found by following the addresses below. And of course, visit the very same websites if you want to chat with any of us here at the Game Team. It really is nice to hear from you guys. Okay, up next, with the upcoming release on the final chapter in the Gears of War trilogy, all eyes are on just how the developers will close the curtains on this epic saga. With that in mind, it's time to go behind the scenes with the developers as they share their inspiration behind the story finale in Gears of War 3.
This is the last stand. This is brothers to the end. You and your couple buddies are all that's left.
This is kind of the end of this trilogy for these characters.
We wanted the story to have a conclusion. We didn't want to end on a cliffhanger.
Everything builds to this fever pitch of chaos.
Gears of War 1 was really about a battle. Gears of War 2 wanted you to feel like you're part of a war. With Gears of War 3, we wanted to take the scale of the story down, make it personal.
Marcus, I've developed a solution for the Lambent problem.
But it's also very much a father-son story.
Please.
It's your father.
Listen. Yeah, I know.
Imagine what it feels like to hear a voice from beyond the grave. I myself lost my dad when I was like 15. Rod Ferguson lost his dad, so did Lee Perry. We are actually making this personal.
The theme that we latched onto is we're all stranded now. Society's collapsed, the government's collapsed, and you're really just basically surviving.
Everybody's on the run. Humans are on the run, locusts are on the run.
There's no army anymore. There's no cog military. It's all been destroyed.
What happens if the world goes apocalyptic? We really focused on low-tech weapons. Even our new turret is just rifles.
4 Lancers that are strapped down into one mount.
Who wants to drive? Who wants to cover?
We have this giant exosuit known as a Silverback. And then tromp around and kind of take out your foes. longest campaign Epic has ever produced for a single-player game.
Anyone up for a hijack?
We have a whole bunch of different locations. Beautiful areas, areas that aren't so pretty.
So, any idea where we are now?
In the up to here?
There are these characters that we've been around for so long. You really feel like you're gonna miss these people.
Are you okay, Cole?
Ah! The train still got the moves, baby!
Coltrane is somebody who brings levity to a lot of situations. At the same time, Cole is one of the most serious characters. I mean, he gets to return back to his stadium, seeing what was lost for him.
With the loss of his children on E-Day and then the loss of his wife, I think Dom has slightly changed. When you look at Anya going from a dispatcher to a soldier, it's all been this journey.
This is where it ends, one way or another.
We're really watching these final scenes that have played out in front of us at the end of the trilogy. It's hard to not get a little attached to the characters, the universe, and everything that goes on in it.
Looking to make teary-eyed snifflers out of even the most macho of manly men. Gears of War 3 is set to release exclusively for the Xbox 360 later in September. And with that, we've crossed yet another checkpoint in the show. But don't go anywhere, because when Game returns, it's a collection of the weird and the wonderful as we look at the top titles on the shelves this week. Plus, we whip out our crystal ball to see just what lies ahead on our road to digital nirvana. Welcome back to Game. You're with me, Kelly, your guide to what's hot in the world of video games. Time now for that bit of the show where we painstakingly list out all the top bits of software released this week. Looking for a gift for that Game Boy or that pixel princess in your life? Well, pay attention. This is the wrap. In this week's MJ-inspired edition of The Wrap, we begin with a little black and white tale in Limbo. A story about a boy who goes looking for his sister at a place called the Edge of Hell. Navigate a world filled with dangerous traps and pitfalls at every turn in this eerie puzzle platformer.
Developed by a small team of independent Danish game designers, Limbo is pretty rare in the fact that many of the game's puzzles are designed to make you fail before finding the correct solution. With a unique art style, some excellent use of spatial ambient audio effects, and a pretty robust physics engine powering the whole experience, this minimalist masterpiece is definitely worth a try.
We have been waiting for you.
Moving on, we spend some time in the nuclear wastelands with the latest bit of downloadable content from everyone's favorite post-apocalyptic RPG, Fallout New Vegas. Titled Old World Blues, this latest bit of DLC puts you smack dab in the middle of a science experiment gone wrong, as you play the part of an unwitting lab rat trying to make sense of your surroundings. Set around a stretch of desert known as the Big Empty, an inhospitable place where no living thing is supposed to be able to survive, uncover the secrets buried deep within the pre-war research centers.
Save us all.
So if you're up for a whole new chapter of radioactive goodness in the Mojave, get a taste of the Old World Blues, available for download right now. And rounding up this edition of The Wrap, want to make good use of that god complex everyone says you suffer from? Well, we've got just the title to do that. Described as a modern god game where nature is the star, From Dust has you in control of an omnipotent being, master of the forces of nature. Featuring a wide variety of beautiful and malleable environments, the aim of this one is to use the terrain to build protection for the many villagers who worship you. With your peons praying to you for protection against the elements, harness the forces of nature and sculpt the world around you. Featuring random events which all take place in real time and a world which is constantly changing in violent ways, this strategy game looks to have the goods.
Some great titles there, including a few choice indie gems to keep you busy this week. Always nice to give credit to the little guys for their contribution to the gaming landscape. Alright, moving on, time now to shed some light on 3 titles which are currently scorching the scene as news trickles in ahead of their upcoming release. Fight or flight, no matter what your instincts are, get ready to be excited. This is the preview.
Kicking off a blockbuster edition of the preview, an early taste of one of Nintendo's biggest releases of the year, Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword. Hitting the shelves at some point in Q4 2011 and available exclusively on the Wii, Skyward Sword is a prequel to 1998's N64 smash The Ocarina of Time. Developed under the watchful eye of master game designer Shigeru Miyamoto, this latest chapter in the Zelda saga promises to make heavy use of the Wiimote with a specific focus on in-game swordplay. Set on a group of floating islands named Skyloft, Skyward Sword will see you swishing your way through an intricate plot as Link, a character that needs little introduction to fans of the franchise. As you'd expect, Nintendo aren't giving a huge amount away in this dreamy outlook at the game, but one thing's for sure, Skyward Sword will soar when it's released later this year. From birds to bats now, and some tasty teasers from Rocksteady as they introduce 2 characters sure to play a major part in Batman: Arkham City.
Help me!
First up, we meet the waddling menace that is the Penguin. Rotund of aspect and sporting an unconvincing Cockney accent, he challenges our square-jawed hero to what can only be described as a right proper dust-up. Understandably, chaos ensues. Trailer 2 features another fan favorite in the somewhat confusing shape of the Riddler. We're not entirely sure what this all means, probably something to do with riddles, but it's heavy on the atmosphere and hints at Bioshock levels of creepiness.
And lie blubbering like an ignorant child on the floor, you will know that the Riddler is better than you.
Arkham City is winging its way onto the Xbox 360, PS3 and PC in October, so set the searchlight, strap on the spandex, and get ready to retire to the Batcave. And finally on this week's preview, the latest incarnation of arguably the greatest fighting game of all time. Ahead of next month's release of Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online Edition, the good folks at Capcom have pushed out this power-packed minute or so of mayhem to give us a sneak peek of what we can expect. And what can we expect? Well, flawless gameplay and classic characters are a given, but Capcom are also promising a seamless multiplayer experience, including tournaments, unlockable content, and the ability to watch or share all the action. Now, what can we say about Street Fighter that hasn't already been said? Well, very little, so we'll let our fists do the talking, and we'll see you online next week.
Only one of the handful of licensed games which are even worth your time. Batman Arkham City looks once again to raise the bar for the superhero genre. And with that, sadly, it's all the time we have left in this episode of Game. But remember, you can always check in at our website at espnstar.com/game for snippets of the show. Or join our growing community of like-minded gamers on Facebook. That's www.facebook.com/ESSGame. Or follow our tweets on twitter.com/ESSGame. Till then, it's your princess of pixelated pleasure, Kelly, signing off.